if we have a grandma, grandfather, anybody who's left us some land, and we want to make sure the folks ain't coming for it.
Wow. Now you are speaking my language. You are speaking about what I am so passionate about. One being heirs property. The laws that are in place right now, with heirs property, they're pretty bad laws. They're pretty much set up to, and I deal with this on a lot of ways. The heirs property is set up to there's a system under Chapter 23A of the Property Code that specifically, Texas Property Code, that specifically talks about heirs property. And what that section of the code does is it allows the courts to come in when there's a disagreement. So let's just say you inherited a piece of property as a family. Most of our ancestors, well, a lot in the South, and I've noticed that about being here, have left big chunks of land, lots of acreage, a lot of times 40, 50 acres, hundreds of acres. And what I'm finding is that the way that they left it was the way they thought it best. They thought that the family was going to protect that land. They were going to come together. They were going to till that land, toil that land, and make a living off that land, which is what we all need to get back to. And so they thought that they were doing the right thing by leaving that property to the group, right? To everyone in the family. But what has happened in that situation is you get heirs, and all you need is one person to come around and convince one of those heirs that, hey, sign this property, sign your portion of the property, and that's called an undivided interest. And so that person, that outsider, is coming in, and in a lot of cases, becoming that undivided interest owner with that family. And then since the family doesn't want to live on it, they move right on the land. They start helping out, paying the taxes, and then they and then they go to court and they file a petition under Chapter 23A of the Property Code, and they try to split off the heirs property. It is, it's a big deal that's happening. I think that there needs to be so much more legislation and reform in this particular area. It is not just happening here in Texas. There's that Silver Dollar story that's on Prime right now. Is it called Silver Dollar Lane? It's happening all over. But that's just one of the situations, but that's one of the bigger ones for me.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do, and this is what I do for the public, which is why I do pro bono work. A lot of pro bono work. I take free consult calls Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for the community. I open that up. I do not get paid for that. I sit on that phone, and sometimes I'm taking an hour with folks looking up deeds, looking up titles, trying to figure out how we can help families protect their land. Because the courts will come in under that chapter and they say, hey, if you don't get along, you don't have to be in it. You don't have to, if one family member disagrees, you don't have to be an owner with the other. And guess what they do? Force the sale of that property. And then if the other family members can't buy it out, if the land goes to someone else, they force the sale.
So we should actually be leaving it to one person or putting it in a trust.
Yes, and we should be leaving it to, preferably in a trust that can dictate how things would go, how you would, divvy up the property. And just like I believe in trust for everything that you do, even if you're just a simple person who has a regular job, a revocable living trust that you set up, I believe everyone should have one. I don't think that it's a tool that just rich people use. I think it's what it does allow you to do is walk into, without having to go through the expensive process and long process of a probate court, or have to determine heirship if you passed away, God forbid, without a will, which so many people do. It allows you to act immediately. It allows you to have that property within that trust, and you can start distributing assets and doing what you need to do right then and there. A trust is really just a document. It's a document that establishes a trust. It's where you would take you have to have assets, right? So it could be anything. It could be money. It could be money. It could be a car. It could be land. It could be a house. It could be it could also be like life insurance proceeds. And
Bank
what it is, it's a
accounts.
legal document, and it's called a trust. And you get a trustee of the trust, who's the trust and a trustor. And what you have to do is you fund that trust. You take those assets. So in my case, I have a life insurance policy. There's beneficiaries. Well, I could leave it to individual beneficiaries like my children, but that allows me to disinherit. Like my child can then go get married and lose that money in a divorce or something like that. So what I do is I take my trust and make my life insurance policy not paid to individuals, but pay my trust as the beneficiary, and then my trust determines how it would get split. And then of
Nice.
course you can put whatever, you go to a lawyer to get that. So it's really just a legal document. But the most important thing about a trust is, I have this issue happen, folks come to me with a trust, they got the trust created and they failed to fund it. And that's one of the key facts. You have to put something in it. Even if you just started with, here's the $10, but you want to start putting the assets and renaming them into the name of the trust.